It's Saturday the 19th of January, so I have just not been up that long. I've had breakfast and a coffee, so I thought before I start all of the housework shenanigans and getting ready for the day, I would do a little stitch with you guys. I haven't done one of these since, I did a Christmas one, and yeah, so I thought, right, well, I think one of these is long overdue, so let me do that, and then I can get this uploaded, and maybe over the weekend you'll have some really good stitchy time and be able to spend a little bit of time with me while you work on your pieces. So as you could see by the thumbnail and the opening picture, I'm working on Steam Heart, which is a Heaven and Earth design by Chris Ortega, and yeah, no, she's lovely. I mean, this is a real work in progress. So I am not that far off this page finish. So last time you saw her, I was at my end of year update. I was sort of working in and around this area. I didn't have an awful lot of this wing stitched at that point, and then I've managed to work myself over, so I've really only got that amount of the first page to finish. So I'm hoping, you never know, perhaps for a page finish towards the end of the weekend, but we'll see how we get on. So I'm just going to be working down on this section here. So what I've been doing is basically, I think this is about where the page finishes, and then I've just been feathering across into the next page so I don't get lines, because I don't know what it is about my stitching, but if I stitch full coverage a page at a time, I'll get lines, and I think it must be to do with the tension and the way I stitch. Many people don't, they're very, very lucky, but I just have to keep an eye on making sure, like on the bottom here, that I've feathered over into the next page and staggered it so I don't get those lines when I just leave this section for, you know, a while and then come back to it. So I'm stitching her on 25 count Lagana, and I'm stitching her with one thread of DMC. So I'm going to zoom you in a little bit further, and yeah, we will catch up. See you soon, bye. So I'm stitching with quite short lengths of thread. This colour is 928, and I'm just finding this colour in particular is quite fragile and seems to be perishing somewhat, so I just want to make sure that it doesn't keep snapping. I've had times where it gets so fragile and so almost perished if I stitch with a longer length that I'll sort of take the needle through, pull it through the back, and then the thread just snaps. So I'm just working in fairly short lengths of this particular colour for now, just to try and prevent that from happening rather. So today I have obviously a bit of a life update, and then I've got a tag. So Stitcherista did this particular tag couple of weeks ago, so I'll just select a few questions from it. I won't do them all. I'll just pick the ones that are either relevant to me or the ones that I can answer, because obviously some of them I can't, and I guess it's the same for everybody. So if you want to use the tag on your channel and tag people, I tag you all to continue the tag on. It was basically created by, I don't know who it was, somebody who was just on Instagram posting a question every day, and Danielle Stitcherista pulled them together and created a tag out of it and answered them in one of her diamond paint with me videos, and I thought, oh, that's quite an interesting one. I will do that. So we'll do that, but first just a bit of a life update really. So if any of you watched my caravan Stitch With Me last week, no, not Stitch With Me, weekend vlog, you'll know I am planning on selling the static. I've got the pictures for that. I'm just in the process of creating my advert. I'm away with work next week, which is another conversation, but yeah, I will plan on getting that posted and uploaded over the next few days, just because the problem is if I get somebody who's interested, and I'm not saying it's going to go that quickly, but I'm not around to show them, so I do need to sort of get that uploaded midweek. So if I get it prepared over the weekend, then I can let it go live midweek when I'm away, which is absolutely fine. So that was that. So we'll just see how it goes. I don't want to lose money if I can help it when I sell it. you know, that's not the aim of the game, is it? But I do appreciate it's not that. It's not going to be particularly easy to sell, so we'll see what happens. There's no big rush, and you know, what will be really with it, I think. But anyway, so in terms of rest of life update, so as you know, I've been into my exercise and that type of thing. So I have maintained that. So I've been doing, I mentioned about the Peloton app to you, which has sort of cycling. Sorry, it's slipped out of the eye of the needle. Let me rethread it. So it's got cycling, running, strength, cardio, meditation, yoga, all sorts of stuff. You pay your subscription of £20 a month, and then you've got access to live classes, pre-recorded stuff. It's yeah, I found it to be brilliant. I actually got a shout out the other night. I did an 80s rock ride, and I got a shout out from the instructor, because I can obviously see who's connected with them, and I got a shout out, which was really, really nice. So yeah, my name got shouted out on that ride. And they can do that for you. So if you've got like milestones in terms of how many you've done, I didn't have a real big milestone. I've only done 16 of them at this point, but it's still good. But yeah, if you've got milestones like your century ride, or you've done 50 rides, 500 rides, they will tend to celebrate. Or if you've got a birthday, they'll give you a special shout out on your birthday, which is nice. Oh God, I'm having trouble threading my needle. Bear with me, sorry. Gosh, that was a palaver. Sorry about that. Anyway, so I was saying I got a shout out. So I'm loving that. The variety on it is amazing. So I'm down for a live 20 minutes run today on my treadmill, which should be good fun. So it's like a beginner's run, so I'm not expecting it to be too strenuous. I think it'll be like sessions of intervals where you jog and then run. So I think it'll be something like that. I've not done it before. I've done some walk and run exercises on the treadmill along to pre-recorded classes, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll be good. So I'm doing that at 2:30, which will be nice. And then I decided as well, obviously to complement the exercise, to have a look at what I was eating. So 2 weeks ago yesterday, I decided to download the MyFitnessPal app, where you can log your exercise and you log exactly what you're eating. So I thought, right, let's have a look and see, because I want to cut out, you know, the Christmas rubbish. So I'd stopped eating a lot of the Christmassy stuff, and I just thought, right, let me just like capitalise on the good stuff I'm doing with exercise, because, you know, to get things moving really. And then obviously I'll quit the app and just continue with, you know, more healthy eating, which I am doing a lot more now, and then the exercise. So I downloaded the app, and it's not in depth or anything. It just wants your age, your height, you know, how active you are during the day. And to be honest, I'm not really the most active person. My job is quite a sedentary job. If I'm not behind my laptop, then, you know, I'm in the car driving somewhere or being driven somewhere. So, oh gosh, the birds have started. Oh, hopefully they'll hush down. They're obviously chit-chatting amongst themselves. So I'm not the most active person, and obviously I am doing the exercise, but it's not, you know, a lot of people with their day-to-day jobs are running around and mega busy. Mine isn't like that really. So I thought, right, well, you know, I'll put the amount of, you know, how active I was in there, and what do I want, your height, your weight, your age, whether you're fit, male or female, and that's about it really. And then it calculates what your calorie intake should be in order to lose weight at a steady rate. So I put all of these figures in, and then it crunches out a number. And in order to lose weight, and this isn't like fast weight, this is steady weight loss, you know, over a sustained period of time, I can have the grand total of 1,200 calories per day. Which 2 weeks down the line I'm okay with, because I've learned different ways of working with that, which is fine. However, 1,200 calories from coming from, you know, somebody who was, you know, consuming basically what they wanted over Christmas and when they wanted, it's quite a loss. Do you know what I mean? It isn't a lot of calories, and it's a loss in terms of what I was eating, which then just really puts things into perspective. So once I'd got over the first couple of days where I could have literally eaten my own arm, I did start to settle down, and I found other sort of alternative foods to have. So basically I'm cooking from fresh and batch cooking and freezing, because I know exactly what's in each thing, and you know, any hidden calories I'm completely aware of, and I'm making sure, you know, that they're not there. And then I've also discovered, and I know I'm probably very, very late to the game with this, because I like chilies, so I do homemade chilies and curries, but I would naturally have them with rice. And when I'm just going to flip this over and back it up while I do this, so all I'm doing is just flipping the board just so I can capture the threads along the back here. I'm stitching with a different needle today, and it's just a bit too big for what I would normally like on like a 25 count Lagana, but it's okay. It is what it is. I'm just going to rethread my needle. It may take some time. If it does, I'll stop it. Let me get going. It's a new strand of thread, so it's not frayed, so it's gone through quite easily. So I'm just using the standard lasso method to catch the stitch. So all I do is just sort of come up down the back and then flip it over, and then sort of make a loop and then catch the little stitch underneath. There we go. Got it. Snagged it. Now I think I've unthreaded my needle as I've done it. Oh, I haven't. Right, let me zoom you back in and get us set back up. There we are. So yeah, I was saying I would normally have chili or a curry with rice. Now in a very small portion of rice there are 230 odd calories, which is quite a lot out of that 1200 a day. I discovered, or I was told about rather, cauliflower or broccoli rice. Have you ever heard of this? I've almost sort of, it's profound, it really is. So all it is literally a cauliflower or broccoli just ground up into, well, just in a food processor. So it has like the size and consistency of rice, but it's a vegetable. And all you do, if you buy it in the bags already pre-made in the supermarket, you would just steam your bag. Or like me, I just blitz a head of cauli or a head of broccoli. And I'm using broccoli really because it's got more iron in, and obviously with me not eating meat, I thought it's a good way of making sure I get that into my system. Just blitz it in the food processor, put it in a pan with no oil, and just sort of fry it without the oil in your non-stick pan. And it has the same sort of filling power as rice, but it actually tastes so much nicer, because I just find that rice doesn't really taste of anything. It's not really that exciting unless you cook it with something or put some sort of sauce in it. But that has been revolutionary, so I'm probably very late to the table. None of the supermarkets near me sell it because I don't have the best Tesco in the world, and our Aldi is poor to say the least. But yeah, I mean, it's been great. So if you're looking for an alternative to spaghetti, pastas or rice, then you go for a vegetable alternative. And I didn't think it would fill me in the same way that that rice does, but it really did. It's been brilliant. So I'm very, very pleased with that. So I'm just going to check where I am on my pattern. Sorry about that. I'm just feathering further across. So where I am now is about the end of the first page. So I've just been feathering across, and obviously I haven't really been counting these stitches. I need to go and mark them off on the next page later. But I just wanted to make sure I was properly lined and you didn't need to see me doing that. So yeah, so we're on track. But yeah, that has been really, really good. So in terms of the last 2 weeks for weight loss, I have lost 4 pounds in weight, which is brilliant, and I'm feeling so much better. My clothes are fitting me so much better. I've lost my muffin top, which is wonderful. So normally I've got this pair of jeans that are just a bit tighter, and where it sits on my hips, they're fine, they fit everywhere else, but you know what it's like, don't you, where you just get that little bit of excess that sort of falls over the top of your jeans. That has gone, which is wonderful. So that combined with my fitness pal, combined with the exercise on the Peloton, which is pretty hardcore, has allowed me to lose 4 pounds in 2 weeks, which I am more than happy with, and happy to lose, you know, maybe another, I'd say, let's sort of think where I am, not quite a stone, but I want to continue this for a little bit longer. But I think a lot of my good work will go out of the window next week, because I'm away with work next week. So we have got conference, which is one of the things I was going to tell you about. So it's very hard to eat well when you're away. There's so many temptations put in your place and in front of you, and I'm going to just try and be a little bit more mindful of what I put in my mouth. For example, I went to the hairdressers yesterday and they brought me a coffee with biscuits on the side, and normally I'd just shove the biscuits in my mouth and not even bat an eyelid. But I got my phone out with my Fitness Pal app on and just scanned the barcode on the back of the biscuits. There was 2 biscuits in the pack and each had 72 calories in each, and I was just like, oh no, it's not even worth it. They were tiny biscuits, obviously full of butter, and I just thought, no, it's not worth it. And I left them. And normally I wouldn't do that. I'd just think, well, they're there, they're free. Well, they're not free because you paid for them anyway, haven't you, with your haircut? But yeah, I opted not to have them. So I guess it just helps you think a little bit more about alternatives, healthier choices, which is a good thing. And if it can do that, then I'd far rather eat better than I have been. So yeah, I'm really happy with that so far. I'm just going to mark off these stitches and then I will be back with you. So I was saying we're away next week, so we've got like a conference for 3 days. So I'm going on Tuesday and I'm back on Friday night late. And it should be good. So there's a lot of things that the managers are doing. So I'm running 2 days of the sessions for my team next week. So it's quite full on from that perspective. So I'll be exhausted when I come home. But we have an evening, so it's the last evening, so it's a Thursday night, we've got an all company gala dinner. So I mean, immediately I thought, oh god, no, not black tie. I used to love black tie when I was younger. I used to love getting my posh frock on, now less so. I think it's sort of, you know, it loses its excitement. But because it's like a Night of the Stars thing, we could go as like any star we wanted. So one of my team suggested, oh well, oh, see what I mean? This is snapped. This is snapped. Bloody stupid thread. Sorry to swear. For no reason at all, and I'm being super careful with this colour. Right, bear with me. I'm going to have to stop while I pull this through the back and try and rethread it. In fact, I might stay with you while I do that. Let's do that and you can feel some of my pain. So I'm going to try and pick it through. Oh my good grief. Oh, do you know? So it's left me with basically nothing. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave it loose and stitch it in. I think it's the only way I'm going to be able to work that. So I'm just going to leave it loose, and then as I work down, I will just naturally stitch over that and stitch it in, because there's no way I'm going to be able to thread that onto a needle. I don't think. It's so fragile. This is exactly what I was saying about this colour, and there was no hint that it was about to do that. Let me see if I can just back it up and push it through. Ow! Obviously I'm stitching through with the wrong end of the needle, and I've just stabbed myself with the pointy end. Right, it's gone through once anyway. I've got it through the back of one stitch, which is better than none, and I'll just leave it a little bit loose, and then I will work it in. Oh! Ooh! So now I've got to rethread. Oh, it's painful, isn't it? Right, okay, breathe, Lisa. So I was saying we have decided to go as like a group event of fancy dress, and we've picked Greece. Well, a couple of people in my team picked Greece. They're going as Sandy and Danny, and I'm going as a pink lady. So I have a pink lady outfit, which I will no doubt share with you on. I'll show you a picture of it anyway. and yeah, you'll be able to see. Probably my end of the month update or something. Right, this one's got a knot in it. Oh dear. Let me just cut that off. I'm not having an awful lot of luck, am I? Let me just snip it there because it's a tiny knot and there's no way I'm going to be able to undo that. Wonderful. Now I'm going to have to come back and put the top leg of that other stitch in that I didn't get to do as it snapped. So again, we're just going to do the usual loopy method. Alright, and I'll take you back in. There we go. And I'll just stitch over the top of that stitch that I didn't get to do a moment ago. And capture that. How many stitches have I got here now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we are how many along? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right. Okay, that's great. I need to leave one gap. And then stitch 2 under that one. So we're going as Grease. So I'm going as a pink lady, and I've got my pink lady jacket and sunglasses, little neckerchief, a little tiny bowling bag with pink ladies written on it. So I'm all set. And what I have found is the 2 individuals who were going, and who were going as Sandy and Danny, have switched genders. So so that should be fun. And it's a surprise because none of the team know. One of my guys let it slip yesterday when I was working with them that her Danny Zuko wig didn't look very good, and I was just like, I thought you two might switch. So yeah, so the rest of the team will get a good laugh and a surprise on the night when those two turn up in the opposite of what people are expecting. So it should be good fun. So yes, you know, another trip away with work, but you know, I don't mind these ones. I'm with my team for most of it, and I love spending time with my team. So it should be okay, this one. So we're down in Windsor, which should be hopefully okay. Right, so I have this tag, and as I said, I'm going to select some questions from it. I'm not going to do them all because some of them are either not relevant to me, so there's no point in me even reading them out to you because I couldn't answer them because it's just not applicable either to this country or to me. Okay, so the first question is, who was your first celebrity crush? So this one's quite an easy one for me. So it was John Bon Jovi. And to a certain extent, it still probably is. So yeah, I fell in love with John Bon Jovi, and this lasted for many years, and it was a mixture of him because, you know, he is very easy on the eye, isn't he? Especially, you know, when you think about me in my teens. Yeah, he was just gorgeous. And I went to see him, how old was I? Very early 20s, up at Gateshead Arena. And I don't go and see an awful lot of music, but we got the opportunity to go and see John Bon Jovi. It was an outdoor event, beautiful sunny day, and we got there really early, myself and my friend, and managed somehow with just regular tickets to get into the front enclosure. And I was literally a couple of meters away from John Bon Jovi. It was the happiest 2 hours or so of my life. I'm not kidding you. He was just a magnificent specimen. Amazing, really, really lovely. And you know, to this day, I still very much enjoy his music. 80s rock music, 80s, 90s. You know, as far as he's recorded, is you know, quite contemporary. You know, some of his very early stuff is still some of my very favourite music. So yeah, he was definitely my first celebrity crush, and yeah, very, 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 very good looking chap. So the second question is, which TV show would you wish to live in? But I would personally change that title of that question to which movie would you want to live in, and I would want to live in Harry Potter. So I want to be a wizard or a witch or whatever you call the female versions. It's a witch, isn't it? I want to be living there. I want to have been, you know, schooled at Hogwarts. I love all things Harry Potter. I think you probably know that about me anyway. It's my favourite ever movie. Or the one the one I could never ever, one of them I'll never tire of. Yeah, I'd live there and have gone to Hogwarts and, you know all of the spells, have a wand, you name it. That would be my ideal. So that is definitely where I would live. I'm just going to count these last couple of stitches. I'm just aware of 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's never easy when you're doing a heaven and earth on a stitch with me. They're never the most straightforward designs to attempt, but I'm having a Haid weekend, so yeah, so this is definitely getting it, and you know, this is a good opportunity to stitch while I'm chatting away to you. So that's the answer to that question. I'm just going to mark off my stitches and then I'll get the next one for you. So the next question is, how do you relax? Well, it's this, without a doubt. It's either this diamond painting or some sort of crafting. The next question is, what is the favourite place you've ever visited? So these two places are both in the same country, so they're both in Italy, and it would be a tough call between the two of them. So it would be Florence and Rome, and they are like beautiful places from a history perspective, and just the environment. I mean, Florence is just lovely, and Rome, you know, you've got all the history around you and so many different things to do and places to see. I love both of those cities, and I'd go back to either of them in a heartbeat, with given an opportunity. And just explore further. Both of them were for like long weekends, so we got to see plenty of it, but with places like that, there's always so much more you could do or see, isn't there? And if given time, I mean, the food's amazing, you know, everything about it is just, I don't know, surreal in a way. But they're my two favourite places. I'd love to see more of Italy. I'd definitely like to see more of Italy. I'd love to take an extended break and just drive from place to place, you know, rent a car, hire a car, and just drive around Italy and just explore some of the amazing places. There's just so much there, isn't there? And, you know, if you want a chill out or a relax on the beach, that they offer that. If you want a more sightseeing, touristy holiday, they've got that too. So yeah, I loved Italy, and those two places are the ones that I've visited. I haven't been anywhere else, but both, it would be tough for me to call between the two of them because they're both gorgeous. The next question is, what is your least favourite household chore? Well, I don't think any of the household chores are favourites, but the very worst one for me is cleaning my shower. I don't like doing the bathrooms, and particularly I don't like cleaning my shower. And it's funny because the bathrooms are the rooms for me where you see the biggest result, you know, from a cleaning perspective. So when you've cleaned your sink, your loo, your shower, and it all looks sparkly and it smells lovely. But yeah, I hate cleaning the shower. I normally do it after I've had a shower and I'm in the shower cleaning it, and it doesn't matter if you get wet or you know, because you're already wet anyway. So I tend to do it then, but I still hate it. Still hate doing the shower. Right, I'm going to back you up because I need to end this thread. Luckily this one didn't perish, which is always a bonus. I hate stitching with this colour, but sadly, given the nature of this design, there's lots of it. I don't know whether it's a fault on the particular skein, but you can see, I don't know whether you can see, just how fragile that looks. And I've not ragged it. You've watched me stitch with it. It wasn't a long strand, but you can see how fragile and gnarled and abused that looks. It just does not look nice. So I'm going to put that in my messy pot. So the needle is a new needle. It's not rough. It's not snagging. I don't know. It's just not good. I'm opening my little bobbin pack again and just taking out. Oh, it's already cut. That's good. Saves that palaver, doesn't it? Right, while I'm about to thread the needle, let me look for the next question. Ooh. Right, which movies can you watch over and over and never get tired of seeing? Well, Harry Potter, the series of Harry Potter. And then there's a lot of Christmassy ones as well, which I like. So things like Love Actually, The Holiday. And I think it's because you tend to watch them once every year that you don't get sick of them. The film I used to watch a lot, which has a Christmas feel about it, is While You Were Sleeping. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it. It's got Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman in it. And I loved that film, and I watched it. So back in my nursing days, before I used to go on to a night shift, more often than not, I would have watched that film and then gone off to work, which is, I don't know why, I just loved it. Such a good feel-good film, and sometimes you just need to feel good before you go to work, don't you? But yeah, no, I love that. And it's like a rom-com. And I'm not the biggest fan of rom-coms. I tend to love, I like detective, murdery. So if I'm ever going to read a book, it would be that sort of genre, sort of crime thriller. I like that. But this is just a really nice rom-com. And it's funny that I've identified some of my favourite films, like The Holiday and While You Were Sleeping and Love Actually, are actually rom-coms, which are not by any stretch my favourite genre. But yeah, they tend to be the ones I could watch over and over. But obviously Harry Potter is your more sort of not generic, but you know, stuff. But yeah, they're the types of things I would watch over and over and never tire of. Right, let me get the next question. What is your worst habit? I mean, I think you can see by the quality of my fingernails. It's definitely that, biting and picking at fingernails. So I have very fragile fingernails and they just snap. And usually when I'm out at work, I'll catch them on my handbag, or I'll get in the car and knock them and they'll just snap off. And then I'm left with a jaggedy nail that I have to usually nibble on to get it looking half decent, because I tend not to carry a nail file, which I really need to carry a nail file. And yeah, that's probably my worst habit, is I need to take care of my hands a lot more and make my nails look okay. So I'm smacking off my stitches again. So I use the Kindle Easy PDF, as you know, for stitching heaven and earths, and that tends to be the easiest way for me to make sure I capture the stitches and not end up, move that across for you, not end up missing stitches, because I hate going back and filling in ninja stitches. It's not my favourite pastime, I have to say. So next question is, what are you most thankful for? Oh gosh, everything. Got my health, my fitness, of being able to go to work. I mean, I know we all whinge about work from time to time, but just having that independence, my friends, my family, my mum, my dad, my job, you know, being able, my house, Daisy, the birds. Oh, you know, when you look at it and you think, oh God, I've got so much to be grateful for. The fact I can stitch. I often wonder, you know, what it would be like if I couldn't stitch. What would I do if I couldn't stitch anymore? You know, say I had an accident and I damaged my right arm, or any of my arms, and how horrendous that would be if I couldn't do one of like the things I enjoy the most. And obviously I play the piano and the clarinet, not that I've done that for a long time, but what if I couldn't do that anymore? Yeah, I'm just so grateful. And I know I'm just like everybody, I'll complain about things, but oh gosh, on the gratitude scale, I'm way up there in terms of, you know, a massive thank you to whatever keeps me sustained and going that's out there. I couldn't be more grateful. Right, I'm marking off these last few stitches. I get to change colour now. Oh, thank God for that. Working with this shade was really stressing me out because it's so fragile. Right, I am going to select my next colour. I'm just going to pause this while I select my next colour. Bear with me, I'll be back in a moment. So I've just got my next floss away bag with the next colour. The next question is, what is your favourite whip? At the minute, Mirabilia's Persephone is definitely my favourite whip that I'm working on at the moment. I'm finding it very difficult to leave her alone and not work on her. It's the colours. It's the colours in the mirrors, isn't it? And their stitchability as well. Not that things aren't, you know, stitchable. Like this is stitchable, but I think you get more, you see more progress, don't you, off something like a Mirabilia. So it's definitely Persephone at the moment. I love her. I think she's so lovely. And it's like every Mirabilia, I don't know what it is, they just don't look as good as they actually are. So when you get one and you know, you see the photograph of it, they look okay, don't they? I mean, don't get me wrong, they look okay, but they never look as good as they do in person when you actually do work on them. The colours in Persephone are just stunning, and the fabric that I'm stitching on as well, which is an opalescent sparkly fabric, really does something for the design as well. So I think it's the whole thing collectively. So I'm going to zoom you back in and we'll just work a little bit more down here. Oh, you've gone blurry. I don't think it's going to go in any further. Perhaps not. Anyway, I'm sure you can see the general gist of what I'm doing anyway, can't you? Yeah. So the next question is, let me get my phone. What song always makes you happy? I like all sorts of different music. So it's often something I've not heard in a while that'll just make me think, oh wow, you know what I mean? I've not heard that for ages. I like all sorts of music. So it's a lot. The Christmas ones in particular make me happy. So things like Step Into Christmas, Elton John, or Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues are often the ones that, you know, I'm more likely to, you know, sing along to, and they're the ones that you don't hear very often. But yeah, it can be anything. I like any type of music you can think of. There's nothing that I don't like, probably apart from like gangster rap type stuff. I don't like that. But you know, normal mainstream music or anything, I'll listen to anything. I love a lot of the 80s music. I love a lot of the 80s rock music. But yeah, I mean, I'm quite open. So there's not one song in particular that I would say, yeah, it's my favourite song in the world ever that I can think of. But yeah, it's just a nice variety of music and something a little bit different. Yeah, I do enjoy music. I used to listen to a lot more music when I was younger. I don't listen to as much music now. I do on the radio as I'm driving in the car, but that's more passive listening, isn't it? Because you're concentrating on what you're doing on the road and you tend not to even be aware fully of what's on music wise. I'm aware of what I'm doing here, so I'm creating an end of a page, which I didn't really want to do. I'm getting a straight line. I'm going to have to go in and feather on the next page when I leave you, just so I don't do that. Oh gosh, I hate that because of the way I stitch. It always shows. I mean, this is such a big design that I'm hoping it won't, but yeah, I'll have to go and feather it in on the next page, just for my own peace of mind later. But anyway, next question. What have I got for you? Which food will you just not eat? Well, I've always been picky with meat anyway, even before I became, I suppose I'm more of a pescatarian than a vegetarian because I still eat fish. But I would never eat lamb, ever. That was my least favourite food ever, because it has such a peculiar smell and taste about it. I can smell lamb a mile off. And my mum tried to once sneak lamb into me, and it wasn't deliberate, but she'd gone to the butcher's for some regular beef mince and they were out for whatever reason, and she bought lamb mince and then made a lasagna with it, and I was in the kitchen when it was cooking, like, I can smell lamb, and she's like, no you can't, don't be silly, and I'm like, no, I can smell lamb. And then she served it up and I sat at the table, I started eating it, I was like, tastes lammy. And she was like, no it isn't, there's definitely no lammy. I'm like, I swear to God this is lammy. And she started laughing, she said, oh my God, I can't believe you can tell, like nobody else could tell it had lamb mince in it. But it's one of those tastes to me that, I don't know, it is so abhorrent to me as a taste that I can spot it and smell it a mile off. If I go to a restaurant or wherever, or you're away with work and they've made a cottage pie or a whatever shepherd's pie with it, I can smell it. I can just smell it when I walk in the room. I'm like, yeah, lammy, I can smell lamb. And then I would have avoided naturally anything that I thought might contain it, where obviously anything that contains meat now I'm not interested in. So yeah, that's my least ever favourite food, and one I would never eat no matter what. Have you ever been truly upset over the death of a celebrity? Yeah, I think so. So the first one would be Whitney Houston, and the other would be George Michael and Michael Jackson as well. And I know when you sort of look at their lifestyles and what they were doing, and you know, I don't ever want to judge people, but you know, when people have sort of lived that life and, you know, excess in every way, you know, alcohol, drugs, you name it, but nobody deserves to die in the manner that those people did. And I suppose I don't know them personally, obviously, but so I you know, from a, you know, a personal connection element, I don't know them. But I think what struck me more than anything was the loss to music, because those individuals would never record music again, and that was the saddest thing, the fact that that was it, and what they had to offer was no more, you know. And those three, you know, Whitney, Michael Jackson, George Michael, they were the people that I'd grown up with from being a teenager, and the ones whose music I'd really enjoyed and identified with. And the fact that that was gone above and beyond anything was what really, it definitely upset me. It definitely upset me. But yeah, I think they would be the ones that where I would say, yeah, you know, that did bother me. And then I suppose as well, you know, from a non-music perspective, I would say the death of Princess Diana as well. And I remember exactly where I was when she died. So we'd taken my parents to Manchester Airport with one of my uncles who's no longer with us, and we were sitting in Manchester Airport with them having a cup of tea before they went through to departures, and the news was on the TV in sort of the, you know, the generic area where we were sat having a cup of tea, and Tony Blair came on and did his speech. And if you sort of followed this, you'd know which one I meant, and sort of stood there and then told everybody that of what had happened. And then there was, you know, the images, the flashes to Paris, and we just sort of sat there. We couldn't believe it that she'd gone. And yeah, I mean, you know, when people talk about, I mean, I wasn't born when John Kennedy was shot, but people always say you remember where you were when you heard that news. I remember where I was when I found out that Princess Diana had died. I won't forget that. In the same way that I remember where I was when I found out about the world trade disaster, you know, the the day of the terrorism and, you know, the Twin Towers, I was on my way home from work, and I know what car I was driving and where I was when I'd switched on the news and I heard that. And I wasn't that far away from home, but I immediately went home. So I went straight to my parents, and they were already watching the news, and they were like, look at this. No, but none of us could believe it. And I remember just sort of sitting there absolutely gobsmacked about what was going on. So things you do remember. Now I'm feathering across onto the next page. I've opened the next page, and I'm going to just work my way across, because this will stress me out if I don't do it and leave myself a sharp edge. But yeah, so that answers that question, and probably extra questions as well. But let's have a look. What is your favourite non-physical quality about yourself? I would say I think I've got two. So my intuition and empathy. So from an intuition perspective, I don't know what it is. I can really pick up on things and situations, and this has served me very well, being a people manager over the years, that it's your gut feeling is often very, very right, no matter whether it's situation, an individual. I'm not often wrong. And you know, I'll pass a joke. My mum is exactly the same. My mum, she's exactly the same, and I get this sort of like, I don't know, we've got the same sort of freaky, it's not psychic because we're not psychic, but strange vibe where we know. And then we'll often say to each other when we've been found to be right, see, I'm as good as a witch. Do you know what I mean? And we just have this ability to read situations and have an idea of what's going on. It's bizarre, and I can only tell you that, yeah, just things that have gone on from managing people. You know, when you get a vibe about somebody and you know they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and then you start looking into it, and then you're found to be right. I don't know. I mean, one of the other managers who I works with is very similar, and he has a saying, if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, and it looks like a duck, it's a duck, kind of mentality. And I think you just know. The other thing is my empathy, and again, this links to similar to the last thing that I was just mentioning there. I can almost get a sense of what people are feeling, even if I haven't felt that way. It sounds so strange, but I've got this really good ability to put myself in other people's shoes, and I don't know whether that comes from being a nurse or that is just something that's intrinsic to you, and sort of serves you in whatever career you go into. Like with nurse, you know, for me it was nursing. I just had this ability to really empathise and understand what people were thinking and feeling. It's bizarre. So I would say those non-physical qualities are the things that stand out to me about me, if you get what I mean. So what is your favourite brand of floss? I don't mind stitching in DMC as long as it's not the colour I was working with before. I don't really have a favourite. I mean, since looking at FlossTube and being part of the FlossTube community, it's opened my horizons, because unless I was stitching in Mirabilia, I would always stitch in DMC. But since then, I've discovered silk, I've discovered like the over-dyed, hand-dyed threads. So many different things out there, isn't there? And I like to stitch in a good variety of different types of floss, and I think that keeps interest high, and you know, working on different projects keeps me motivated to stitch, where in the past I would just have maybe one project, I'd get bored of it, put it away, I wouldn't stitch for a number of weeks, then get my mojo back, pick it back up. Where there's very few nights where I don't stitch unless I'm super tired or I'm away with work. You can bet your life, or I'm out with friends or doing something, that I will be stitching. So it's good. I love it. But floss, anything. I'll stitch with anything. I really don't mind. So, how long have you been stitching diamond painting? Well, diamond painting I started last year, so I'm still a newbie to that. But stitching I've stitched for, gosh, I started when I was 18. So more than 20 years, maybe 25 years now. 25 years I've been stitching. One of my good friends taught me when I was about 17, 18 how to cross stitch. And my first piece, you've seen it, was the Lanarte Girl with Dog. So never stitched on a small, went straight for that, stitched on linen, and yeah, that was the first thing I'd ever stitched. It had yeah, cross stitch and tent stitch in it for the effects, some metallics. Yeah, that's just typically me. I don't sort of get my toes wet first with anything. I get like full body wet in there and wade and get all the kit, the equipment, everything you need. I take it quite seriously, and then I'm in wholeheartedly into everything. And as I start to do more jewellery making, card making, and you start seeing some of the supplies I've got, you'll understand that a little bit more about me as well. I tend to go whole hog at something that I'm interested in, and yeah, I either do that or I just don't bother. That tends to be the way I am in life in general. I either put my heart and soul into it, or I'll not even start it, or I won't bother with it. But that's just me, and I think there's probably a lot of us when it comes to things who are a little bit like that. The next question is, who was the first FlossTuber you ever watched? I can't remember. I have a feeling though, it was Caroline Mazzio, who doesn't make videos anymore, which is a big shame. But I think it was her I found, and then because I'd Google heaven and earth cross stitching, because I was doing some of that at the time, Teresa Little Stitcher popped up, and she was working on one of her Faces of Fairy at the time, which was the White Swan. It's one of Jasmine Beckett Griffith's pieces, and yeah, that popped up. Sorry, this has just crashed. My Kindle's just crashed. I just need to get to the page again. Bear with me, but I'll carry on chatting while I do it. So she popped up from that perspective, and I remember, following Teresa and looking at some of the things that she'd done and watching a number of her uploads at the time. And then there was Pam Reed, and then she changed the name to Pam's Crafty Corner. I found her very early on. Jessie Marie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff, and then it escalated. Before you know it, you're following loads of people, and then there's so many FlossTubers out there now. It's amazing how I've seen the community grow over the last, how many years? Well, I've been doing it for nearly 2.5 and watching it for a year prior to ever plucking up the courage to do my own. So for 3.5 years, it's just developed into something absolutely amazing, hasn't it? So they were probably the first people I ever found. The next question, and we're almost at the end of them now, is what is your all-time favourite book? This is easy. It is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Favourite book in the whole wide world. And it was one that I discovered when I was doing my GCSEs. So I was about 15, I would say, 15, 16, when I discovered this book. Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. It's amazing. I love any of the Bronte sisters' work. So Jane Eyre from Charlotte Bronte, they are my favourite. And the books that I've read, more than once, numerous times. I'll just back you out while I tie off my thread. Yeah, they're wonderful. So well written. There's just so many different layers and depths to them when you read them, and that they could be written at that time as well is just phenomenal by people as well who hadn't felt those feelings. So when you think about the premise of what Wuthering Heights is, like a doomed love story, I don't think at the time Emily Bronte had ever been in love or knew. She must have been to write about it, I don't know, but it was just amazing. Anyway, moving on. let's see. There's a question here about pets, but you know my pets very, very well. The last one, really. Oh no, let's do this one. Is there another craft you would like to try, or another craft you would like to get better at doing? So I would say stitching, definitely. And as you know, I have ordered a chatelaine, which I've not heard anything about yet, but I am aware that because of the content of what's in my chatelaine, it may take a little while to come. So there's no rush. But the specialty stitches, or the speciality stitches, I really want to get better at. I've done some black work, and a lot of the stitches, well, not a lot of them, but some of them are in there, like the Algerian eyelets and things like that. So I have done some of those. I know they're not just the only ones. There's a lot of others, but the speciality stitches, I definitely want to get better at, and the chatelaine will allow me to do it. And then there's other elements of stitching I'd also like to try as well. Things like tapestry maybe, or crewel, or hardhanger. I'd really like to have a go at hardhanger. And maybe, you know, in the not so distant future, I might give it a whirl, who knows. But definitely from a needlepoint perspective, I love cross stitch, but there's a lot more to stitching than just cross stitch alone, isn't there? So different elements I would definitely like to try, I think, and just sort of see where that journey progresses off to. You know, maybe like textile work as well. I sat next to a lady on a train once, and they'd been to a textile like conference. I think it was in Harrogate. They got on the train and she had these beautiful books, and I remember asking her, you know, do you stitch? You obviously do. And she was like, oh yeah, no, I do, but we also do different things with different mediums as well, and some of the stuff they produced was so special. You know, working with different types of wools and weaving and things like that. There's just so many different things that you could do, isn't there? Obviously it's always comes down to time, particularly, doesn't it? And then the money aspect of, you know, the more hobbies you have, the more, you know, cost outlay you've got. So I don't know, but yeah, definitely this side of the creativity. I mean, I enjoy diamond painting, but there's only so much with diamond painting you can do. It's not like you can branch off into different facets of it, is it? You either do a square or a round or a partial or a full, as far as I see it. But yeah, definitely from a needlepoint perspective, there's definitely things I would explore in the future, but we will see. And then there's a final question here, is what do you do with your aughts, or, you know, your cut-offs, and then, you know, your diamonds that you don't use if you do diamond painting? Well, they all go in the bin. I know lots of people keep them in the stuffed smalls with them, or they keep them and put them in a Christmas bauble with the date, the year on that they finish with those. But yeah, I don't. I just bin them. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing either way, you know, whether or not you want to keep them and display them or you want to throw them. But to me, they're just cut-offs that I don't really want. I've got enough stuff in the house without adding to overall clutter and things like that. So yeah, I just bin them, to be honest. But there you go. But I've actually finished this section now, which is good. And this shade, so I've managed to like feather across, as you can see, so I don't have a harsh line anymore, which I'm really pleased about, because that would have stressed me out. So I think at this point I'm gonna love you and leave you. I hope you've enjoyed it. I mean, I certainly have, chatting away to you. I've got a fair bit of stitching done, which is always good. So I'm going to go and get this all uploaded. Hopefully this will come to you today, and then I will, yeah, I've got some housework to do, unfortunately, because there's always housework, isn't there? So a bit of housework, and then I'm running at 2:30 because I've signed up to do the running class on Peloton, And then above and beyond that, I do want to work on this lovely. So yeah, you'll see her again in my end of the month update, and hopefully I will have got this page finished and into this next section here. And then I'll just back it out a little bit more. And then once this page is done, we're sort of back into her hair. So this is the next sort of section I want to get stitched up and just move across, and then I'm just going to concentrate more on her hair and face at that point, which I know everybody's keen that I stitch, because obviously that's the best bit. But you know, like I said in my monthly update, I do need to make sure I concentrate on this background, and it's nice to stitch, it's effective and it's pretty, yet it's the same colour palette again and again, and it does become a little bit tedious. But I know what I'm like, and if I stitch her, I won't come back and do the background to go with her, so I really have to do the least exciting bit as well as work on her face as well. So I will get to the point where I do have that top section of her face stitched over the next couple of months or so. So I hope you've enjoyed stitching or diamond painting with me, or whatever you've been doing while I've been chit-chatting away. And yeah, I hope you have a lovely weekend, and I will potentially see you with an update maybe midweek next week, and then probably catch you for my end of month review. So take care guys, I'll catch up with you soon. Bye.